Kalista, high priority in bans that we've seen consistently. I will say I kind of miss seeing the pick, TBH. This is a pick that we know and love here, though, and every time you give it away, especially to Viper, it is a terrifying thing as the Zeri gets locked in for EDG.
Yeah, and obviously with Vi taking off the cards, you have more freedom to pick up the Zeri simply because of the fact that Vi is such a good answer at that point-and-click CC. Now, LNG, they go for the Renekton and they go for the Lucian. Perfectly telegraphs their pick 3 as being Nami, so now EDG probably expect the Lulu to come out to pair with the Zeri. That's one of the picks we've seen work quite well into the Lucian Nami. Lulu, whether it's with Zeri, whether it's with things like Sivir, or a variety of picks, even Aphelios. And then the question is, what else will they take? They could take something like the Poppy and then ban away Trundle the next rotation if they wanted to, because obviously, you know, Trundle's open, but LNG have to take Nami. They're trapped into it. You could also take something in the mid lane. You could take something like a Sejuani here. You have a range of things you can pick, but LNG can't respond because this has to be a Nami.
Yeah, or you get it banned away and then you wonder what the Lucian is looking at. So LNG kind of drafting themselves into a corner in the first 3 picks, but I still think you have to look towards the rest, right? Where we're going to get the setup for Tarzan and especially the solo lanes for them. You said coming into this, you've got to pick good solo lanes to enable Tarzan, and I think that's going into the second phase. We'll see what those bans lead to.
Yeah, and I think one of the things with LNG is they already have a strong solo lane in the Renekton, but it is a flex. The Sejuani is also a flex. It can go top of jungle that we've seen being done. We've seen EDG bring that out in the jungle in their series against top esports, so they have that level of flexibility. LNG start targeting the mid pool, though, getting rid of that Azir, which I feel like you already see LNG have a short range composition. They have a composition that wants to snowball. You want a lead for your Renekton, you want a lead for your Lucian, so trimming down those strong scaling options for EDG that can obviously mitigate the pressure is really important. And we do see EDG ban away that Trundle from Tarzan. I feel like when you have a super tank like Sejuani, you don't want to be going up against the troll.
And I'm surprised. I wonder, I mean, is the Poppy going to actually make it through? Do we see Tarzan able to pick that one up? We've seen Tarzan just... man, when he plays Poppy, it's like 50 chess. It's not even 4D anymore. It's actually incredible the mind games this guy plays with it. But we'll see what obviously he gets in terms of that proactive nature, because as you know, on the other side for EDG, you are also wondering what JJ can kind of bring into the matchup against Tarzan itself. And LNG say, well, you're not going to get the Poppy, JJ, as they ban it away.
Yeah, interesting one that they opt to ban that out here, because it clearly suggests that Tarzan has something completely different in his pool that he's ready to bring out here that hasn't been touched on. Surprisingly enough, Wukong still hasn't been touched here, so I wonder if EDG maybe look towards that one as a ban away, just on the fact that, yeah, they're going to go for that one that has been left open. Now, I expect LNG probably to take jungle here, simply to keep that Renekton flex alive and available to the last moment, as obviously, you know, Doinb is someone who leans on it, so we'll see what they opt to go for here in the jungle for Tarzan.
And I think obviously it's so crucial, but as well as kind of oh, we got a mix up here itself, though. We had the Renekton picked early for LNG. Turns out they're playing a little bit of flex, and we have the Kennen locked in. Right, still a bit of flexibility in terms of either one, but I think would be really interesting to see Doinb picking up the Renekton in mid.
Yeah, this kind of suggests to me that they're putting humongous emphasis on Tarzan. The fact that they're willing to show their flex, because it's likely going to be the Kennen top, the Renekton mid. We don't really see Kennen mid at the moment. So they really want Tarzan to have a fantastic pick here, and he's going to have full information. Scout goes for the Sylas, something we've seen him lean on pretty heavily recently. And now we'll see if the Sejuani does go top or if it does go jungle. Obviously, the pool has been thinned quite a bit in the jungle, and you have a melee mid laner. So I think Sejuani jungle makes sense. You can just take the Gnar into Kennen. I think you're okay with that matchup. And then that will be LNG ready to pick their final jungle pick here. It's just to see, we've seen Tarzan bring things like the Zac out in the most recent series. You know, you could even bring something out like the Nidalee in theory, which would be very bold, but pairs well with Renekton. To see what he does up for in this situation. Xin Zhao is a bit more of a standard pick that is still available, but I feel like if you're leaving it to the last pick, you're probably not going towards something standard.
Yeah, we'll see, I guess. I was going to say something about this earlier because the comp sets it up so well. And if we actually get this, yes! Let's go! Game number 1. We get Tarzan Nidalee with the perfect setup around him, Og.
And I feel like the context was there. The Renekton being locked in, the fact that you have setup in the top lane as well with the stun for the Kennen, but just the fact they left it to last pick. They showed their hand with the Renekton, they telegraphed that they really wanted this to be a game about Tarzan. And something I hit on at the start when I was saying what LNG need to do is have strong solo lanes to set Tarzan up. This is a game where Tarzan is planning to take over. This is a win lane, win game for LNG, where they want to stomp EDG into the ground without giving them a chance to breathe. And they really do need to, because I feel like if you go in the late game against the Zeri, Lulu, against the Sylas, against the Gnar, you're going to have a rough time. So it is all on Tarzan to get this game rolling.
Speaking of, I don't know if you saw social media, Tarzan had a little bit of birthday party. Everybody have a little fun. Maybe this is a continuation of that birthday shenanigans. We'll see if he just absolutely pilots this Nidalee to that detriment of EDG as a whole. But I'm wondering if it's the birthday buff coming in for Tarzan here. But I love that they're willing for this first game to holistically focus on Tarzan. We have said from the get-go, from the first series for LNG here in the summer playoffs, Tarzan is the man in the loincloth, swinging through the jungle and helping everyone out, making sure that the wins come under the belt of LNG. And it has to be more true than ever coming into this series. We saw what happened when it doesn't go LNG's way. They got 3-0'd by JDG, but here trying to throw wrench into the plans of EDG in game number 1. They come out with a strategy that feels so authentically LNG that it is terrifying for EDG. But on the other side, stability is king. A Fed Viper equals a 1 game. That is what you told me, Aux, and it needs to happen here to make a statement in game number 1. It is LNG versus EDG. Former world champions and world champions abound on the roster of LNG. Loser here in this series goes to the regional qualifiers. They are done for a little while. Winner will go on to face the loser of Top Esports versus JDG. And ceremoniously, we get a pause to kick us off, Aux.
Opening up with a pause. I do want to talk a bit about this mid lane matchup because we've seen Doinb play this exact matchup not too long ago against RA, the second last series of the split, which they did actually lose the series, but this game, they Renekton into the Sylas.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone remembers the moment, but Doinb does an all-in when he has the Blade of the Rune King completed, and he 100-0'd Strive.
Yep.
Like, just one-shot him. He obviously was a bit ahead, but he wasn't, like, hyper-fed or anything. This is a rough matchup for Sylas. And with the Nidalee into the Sejuani, that is a rough matchup for the Sejuani. She's definitely someone that can be punished, targeted early. So, as you said, Fed Viper equals win. But I honestly feel like it is all on JJ and Scout to survive the early focus that they will undoubtedly have. If they lose the mid jungle, then I feel like a lot of that pressure from LNG will lean towards Viper.
And I want to go into the win conditions. Obviously, you're putting out like how they win for each team, but specifically to this first round, right? It definitely feels like LNG need to get the ball rolling, need to get something going, because the tankiness, the front to back fight for EDG will be pretty scary. And it's going to be a lot about the mechanical execution for LNG at least.
I feel like it's a big focus on their early game. You got to remember, against JDG, they lost all 3 early games pretty significantly. They didn't have the objective control. They were falling behind in terms of neutral objectives, not getting the Heralds, not getting the Dragons for the most part. So in this one, looking to try and get that early advantage. Now, JJ is actually going for a path here where he goes from red buff to blue buff, and the reason for that is you don't want to leave your buffs open in case Tarzan invades. You secure them as quickly as possible, then you start to clear through your other camps, just denying Tarzan from being able to challenge on those. And you actually notice there's a ward on his blue buff and a ward on his Raptors. LNG doing as much as they can to have information, whereas you see for EDG, they have those defensive river wards to try and cover JJ. This is... Excuse the pun, this is literally going to be a game of cat and mouse.
It really is. I'm so excited for it, especially because you're seeing...
pig, I guess, with Sejuani,
do pigs fly? I guess JJ is hoping so, to some extent. But I love, again, it is about game planning. It's about preparation for LNG. They had a ward down here in the, JJ's red side. Didn't spot him, but they did spot him on the blue side. Now Tarzan goes for the chicken. It is warded, though, and JJ, he could come contest.
Yeah, but I think Tarzan's going to have it cleared up before he gets there. And honestly, I think if you're just losing your Raptors, not that big of a deal. JJ did the correct move, covering his
He didn't expect him to be there.
Focused here.
I think this is still a little bit scary, though. A little bit tanky is the Sejuani early, and one more spear does not connect, and Tarzan needs to back away. He does have the help and movement from both his mid laners and his bottom lane, so at least strategies work it out so far for LNG in terms of that cohesion.
You can see the game plan from the side of LNG. As soon as Tarzan goes to that aggressive invade, all his lanes start flocking towards him. This is priority mid, priority top, and bot lane. Now that Lucian Nami has hit level 3, they're going to have priority as well. They're going to have control of the lane. So really, 3 prior lanes with the Nidalee, this is the exact scenario to flourish. He's already taken that bot scuttle. He's now clearing through his bot side jungle. We'll see if he heads up towards that top side scuttle to secure that as well. Looks like JJ's already reset though and is beelining towards that. His hope is he can get there before Tarzan and he can be able to pick that one up, because right now all his camps are dead. He doesn't really have anything else to do with his time other than maybe look for a gank.
Yeah, which, you know, we've set up. It's more so about bending and kind of figuring out where LNG are trying to put pressure points. And I do wonder, you know, how objectives come into that conversation. But specifically, you know, looking at the early pathing from Tarzan. Oh, no. Doinb in a little bit of trouble. He has a flash. He has the Ignite down as well. So double summoner spells burned from Doinb.
Yeah, I don't think it goes without saying. This is not how the matchup's supposed to go. Scout actually had a wave bounce back, and Doinb tried to contest it instead of just letting it go.
Oh, look at...
And now he's so low. Yeah, they're looking for him. He really doesn't want to lose this wave, but he's under massive pressure.
Tarzan's coming around, but again, he's just the Nidalee, and not as much tankiness. He's in some trouble now. He's going to go down under turret. Doinb, he tries to get the outplay. He gets the trade back. JJ in some trouble. It is a 1-for-1. Craziness early, but EDG get first blood.
And this is fantastic for EDG. Yes, Scout does end up going down. Oh, heavy trade.
Committing. Light goes in, but he gets polymorphed at the perfect timing. Meiko expertly fighting this early fight. Flash comes down, and Meiko, he shuts the door of the bottom lane.
And mistakes galore for LNG. You have a win lane, win game comp, and you are starting to make mistakes. Light oversteps, dashes in without any damage left available. Oh, Luma's looking for more.
Stopping Meiko's back at least. Oh, and he stops Vipers too. All right. You get that one back.
But yeah, I mean, the mid jungle. You pick this for mid jungle domination. Doinb makes a big mistake. And then here, Tarzan doesn't connect the spear. But the power of the melee mid laner with the Sejuani, even though the stun misses, they get the lockdown. Doinb does answer back there. But even so, a trade when you're playing the Renekton Nidalee isn't ideal. And here, Light makes a mistake, right? Uses his combo initially and then dashes in. You have no damage left. You should have just stayed back, ends up committing to the play, and not only dies, but loses flash as well. Critical error from Light. You have to go for those short trades with the Lucian Nami. Don't get baited into the extended fights.
And I have to put more praise, right? This is not a bot lane that you can mess up against. Aux, like at all. We've seen Viper and Meiko destroy games no matter the matchup. And if you have mistakes like that, Viper will Meiko will holistically punish you.
Yeah, Fed Viper equals a free win for EDG. And obviously starting in that manner, it was Meiko who got the kill, but not ideal. You can see Light and Meiko with summoners down, playing a little bit more precariously, but it is at least even summoners, right? Viper has his flash, LvMao has his. Now Doinb looking to keep applying pressure as best he can in this matchup. Has picked up the early Merc Treads, and that is something to mention. A lot of value of those against the side of EDG with the stuns from Sejuani, with the magic damage, and CC from Scout as well.
It's a nice little setup, at least trying to get an early advantage to some extent. Tarzan will show up in the mid lane. Does get spotted out by the ward. JJ is right here as well. Speared, blocked by JJ, and now Doinb is in trouble here. You've got Tarzan having to flash away as well. Doinb wanted to go back in after the spear lands. Maybe they have the poke to get them down, but it's just a bit of poking and prodding. Nobody's going to go down just yet in the mid lane. Summoner spells burned.
And JJ doing a fantastic job of tracking Tarzan here, matching every time. You're picking Renekton Nidalee and you're losing the 2v2. This is a disaster. And now EDG have got the ult.
Doinb, why are you still there? Oh, it's catastrophe. It's a double kill in mid lane for EDG.
Oh, it's so bad for LNG, but so well played for EDG. You can even see JJ smited a minion. They were rushing it to get the experience, to get the ultimate. Let's look for Scout.
He's just going to flash for it. There you go. He cleans it up. Maybe the Kingslayer helping him out to survive a little bit longer. And Scout buying a lot of time here. Will eventually go down to Allah. But I guess LNG were just trying to force a play while Allah was on his way down. It just goes down a little bit too early for them.
I think they just didn't respect the potential of JJ hitting level 6, but overstepped. I think it goes without saying. And Allah answers back, but it's still such a losing scenario. All this priority given to Tarzan. He had the last pick Nidalee with lanes that have set up triple prio lanes to play for him. And look at the scoreline. He's down in farm compared to JJ. 2-0-1 to 0-2-1. Bit off a disaster. We do not see a play from the bot lane that we missed while that was going on. Looks like Viper on low HP managing to back off. Does LvMao find him here?
I wonder. It actually looks like...
Oh, the culling's available. I think Meiko
yeah,
dies
I think
here.
Meiko dies. Oh, no. Oh, feels bad. But great stuff from Light to pick it up.
Yep, some positives much needed for LNG. Now, LvMao does have flash and heal. Oh, the bubble hits!
Oh, but the spear does not, and that's the primary damage source here. We will have the spear coming back up. A Viper expertly dodges out of it. Tarzan trying to go for the execute. This is Viper Zeri. He will just poke you down, and if you can't hit those spears, it's going to be a problem for Tarzan.
You saw the lack of faith that the bubble would connect, because if you think the bubble's going to hit, you wait with the spear. You wait until the bubble hits to guarantee the land. Tarzan and LvMao a little bit off sync there, and Viper already so much confidence in his Zeri.
So I got a little bit here. All right, so Tarzan, he had the birthday buff, right? Like they had the birthday party, everything like that. But I don't know if you also saw social media, EDG had a feast. And if you didn't see it, that feast was incredible. I'm wondering if it's just a food buff coming in here for EDG. Do you like food buffs?
Like pretty... I'm a fan of food buffs. Look like pretty good food. Maybe it's helping. And EDG wanted to feast some more, take that skull crab. Tarzan had no smite, forced away. And LNG still looking for something, but I don't think you're going to find it right now.
So I got to check back in, though, because we were talking so much about early proactivity for LNG, getting Tarzan ahead. The lanes need to help him out, but so far it's an 0-2 Tarzan Nidalee, and try to find LNG's win condition here. It's getting harder and harder to see how they break through with the tankiness starting to come through. Now with the Rift Herald under JJ's belt, with the potential for the hover around bottom lane, it's a lot of questions to be answered for LNG.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, oh, they might see something here.
Gonna try to force the fight here. A little bit of CC. The Dominus is popped. Doinb is healing up a decent amount, but it will be the Nidalee ult stolen. And here goes the execution. Doinb goes down. JJ heals as well. And Tarzan has to run away now. Scout trying to chase him down. The abduct does not connect. JJ is right here behind him. The Tarzan gets away. Again, just not leaning the way of LNG. Oh, here we go, though.
Oh, and now more.
Light tries to go in. He gets polymorphed right when he goes in. The calling does come out, but not going to hit much. And Viper is fine at this distance to try to poke down. LvMao getting hit pretty hard on the end of it. Clicks come out from Light there. So big summoner spell burned.
Yeah, and you can see LNG are trying everything they can to get that early lead, but they just keep losing out. Scout and JJ are gapping Tarzan and Doinb. There's no other way to spin it. And look, the primary win con for LNG was Tarzan getting ahead, having a lead. You know, you'd look to see him having like a 2-level advantage, 20, 30 CS, maybe having a couple of kills. That was what they were looking for out of this. The fact he's so far behind, that primary win con is cut out the window. That doesn't mean the game is over. The mid game from LNG is still strong. Renekton spikes well on an item or 2 items. Lucian, Nami, we talked extensively how the 1-item spike, the Mandate plus the Gale Force and the Dirk is a great spike. But that's kind of like your follow-up win condition. That's kind of what LNG are relying on. And if they flub the mid game as well, I think that's just it. That's just game 2 that we're looking towards.
And I think there's a side tangent to be had here looking at the top lane matchup in terms of going into the mid game, going into the late game. There is a lot of team fight set up from both Ala and Flandre. And I know we were having a little bit of a side conversation earlier in the series, before the series started, about this top lane matchup. But I think it's going to be so crucial. As you see, Ala in the past has found those incredible big slicing Maelstrom flanks, but Flandre himself, those Mega Gnar ultis are going to be so crucial for at least the setup in teamfights for EDG.
Yeah, I mean, if he can sort of connect onto critical members, if everyone's short range LNGs, if you can catch them with big Mega Gnar, can make all the difference. But the slicing Maelstrom, obviously, fantastic team fight tool now.
No. Well, they might have heard, and they're saying, Ala, you don't get to be a part of the fights here. Slicing Maelstrom does come out. He is trying to balance between the 2 towers here, but 3 members from EDG will make that very hard to do. And that will be Ala falling. That'll be Rift Herald down, or in the top side at least, and also first tower going down to the LNG first dragon of the game.
Yeah, so this is kind of a little bit backwards in the sense that normally you'd want LNG to be having the gold lead. The dragon maybe less of a concern. LNG have got that early dragon. The Cloud Dragon, not bad to have early. The extra out of combat movement speed will help you get around the map quicker. But the fact that EDG get that first tower and may even get a second here, I know which I would rather have if I was LNG.
There's 3 members of EDG here, and LNG just trying to come defend the turret. The bubble does not land, and that's the problem. I feel like when you take some very skill shot heavy champions into the likes of previous world champions in EDG, right? We're seeing a lot of these skill shots dodged out from just the mechanical skill of EDG.
I'm gonna reveal you're not hitting Viper with a spear unless you see
You're not.
I don't expect it to happen. And the confidence from EDG, right? They're making a cross map play. They're winning the cross map play. They took 2 towers while LNG only got 1. But even the fact that they're trading, they still want more. They take a plate mid on top of that, and LNG have to respond. Massive win for EDG. Yeah. 2,000 goal lead now. Look how strong Scout is. He's closing in on his Zhonya's with the crown already finished. Doinb doesn't even have his first item completed.
Yeah, and at this point, he is just double farming the jungle as well, and incredible stuff just to make sure that every lead is pressed that much further for EDG. I think that is the difference when you're looking at this kind of advantage for EDG. The fact that they're able to start putting the closing clasps on a lead like that, right? You're seeing them flex in every little bit. The CS trying to get as much farm for these carries as possible. Scout, he doesn't stop doing B's back. He does just go straight in onto Light. Had the crown to deflect a lot of the damage. Ultra Shock laser across. The abduct almost connects with the Glacial Prison. Does, and down goes LvMao. And we'll see Tarzan try to respond with a bit of presence, but it's too strong from EDG.
Yeah, Scout kind of overextended. His game plan there was stop Doinb's recall. But the end result of the play actually was favorable because with the crown so hard to burst out, had the stopwatch as well as like a safety net, and EDG were there to respond. Now Flandre putting pressure on this tower. Already got the Triforce completed. Doinb has finished his Blade of the Rune King, so a lot of damage available to him if he gets on a target. And it looks like that's a plan for LNG. They're trying to collapse on this now.
Try to using Allah's speed from the TP. The spear does also connect, slicing Maelstrom, but Flandre flashes over. Tarzan gets the distance. The pounce comes clean, and Tarzan gets his first kill of the game.
Yep, they're getting plays. They're making it happen. LNG trying to find these picks, but it is still table scraps compared to EDG, who are now picking up the second Herald and trying to continue the pace of this game. You can see LNG trying to apply some pressure here. They do actually chunk out Viper, so he has to be a little bit careful. Meiko taking some damage as well. I think they may need JJ to come over and offer some support. But in the meantime, look at Scout. He's pushed that wave in top. Ola has to respond, and he's trying to pick him off on the way. Ola takes a safe route around.
He saw him as he moved right there, just for that little bit of a second. But JJ is right here. Scout is right around the corner. Can't get the engage on the LvMao. No! The tidal wave comes through, hits on the Light, but it'll be a quick flash from LvMao to get him out.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you get the flash. You're happy with that one. Scout going pretty aggressive still here. And I feel like now you have the Zhonya's. You have a whole item leader with a Renekton.
That's crazy.
You can kind of see where the confidence is coming from.
That is actually crazy. I know they're a little bit cheaper to some extent, at least the crown, but like that is still insane that we're seeing this much of a difference in mid lane. But now that we have, you know, mythic items for everybody except for Doinb as he rushed that Blade of the Rune King, I still think there is a big proponent of the team fights leaning in EDG's favor, right? That tankiness is going to start working out for them. The front to back is going to start working out for them. And LNG's early game was not nearly as much as we wanted it to be.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, EDG have a really tanky front line that's going to be hard for LNG to cut through. And they also have one of the best scaling AD carries in the game with one of the best scaling supports in the game that we currently see in the meta. So LNG have their work cut out. They're probably going to be wanting to play around picks, but if they can't find picks, it's about boosting out someone like Viper quickly, who will go down. JJ's not going to go down quickly. Flandre, if he's in Mega, definitely won't, and Scout with the double defensive items won't either. So it's hard from here for LNG, but they need to start finding wins. They need to start finding advantages. Nice initial spear on a Viper, but now Doinb's in trouble.
It's the CC chain coming through, and Doinb almost out of the fight completely. He does have the Dominus. He wants to go ahead and pop that, get some extra health, get the rage going. But with Gnar for Flandre, they are confident in their setup for EDG, at least in the team fights. Allah, he's on it. He's looking for the flanks, but he will be spotted out by the ward. And actually, Rift Herald from EDG spawned in the mid lane.
Yeah, so throwing this down won't quite take the tower, but will do a lot of damage to it. Forces LNG to respond. And now they really have control of this river area. Viper's taking a lot of poke, actually. I said he wouldn't be hitting with spears. Tarzan's been doing a fantastic job. And that's kind of making EDG lose a bit of their confidence. They give up control of the river, and LNG have found their way in and will be starting up the dragon.
And they're trying to catch Scout out on the side as he was trying to bodyguard against Allah's flank. But if you can find those pokes, you know, the spear, everything coming down, that is where a lot of the early setup for LNG is. But now Allah, he's found a flank. He's not spotted out. He got the calling in early. Flandre is out. Scout finds him at the last second, but the slicing maelstrom's already here. Everybody in trouble, though. Scout goes in with his own slicing maelstrom, and Allah is the one that gets hit by it, will be taken down. And EDG find a way to bend and not break and turn it on to LNG.
Yeah, Allah comes in with a big hole, but the summoners are available for EDG to get out. The exhaust as well. Such a counter to Kennen, who in those few seconds the exhaust is on him, is doing most of this damage for the entire fight. So Allah gets shut down, they turn it around, but EDG made the choice not to go for the dragon. They felt like they didn't have the confidence to look for it. Instead, they let JJ heal up, let Viper get a bit of health. They postured, but ended up not getting the objective itself. I do have to say, they did set themselves up for this engage from Ale, but as I said, had the summoners to play it defensively, had the flashes, the scout with the re-engage, and the Zhonya's able to outvalue the Kennen.
It's actually crazy, the give and take in that scenario, right? EDG are confident in knowing that, you know, we just saw Scout take it. They are all clumped up trying to go in on this pickoff, and they end up getting punished for it. And again, EDG just showing that they are heads and above so far in terms of that decision making, in terms of that fight pickoff. And with another tower and a fourth one for EDG, the lead gets bigger here, Aux.
Yeah, I mean, it is getting really problematic. The kind of saving grace is that, you know, if LNG securing the second dragon, Soul is really far away, but that isn't that much of a win con, because ultimately Soul, like ADG don't need Soul. They can just keep letting the game scale on. TP flank come in. This is Scout.
This is Doinb in some trouble. He has the rest of his team at the Baron pit here. He's going to use the slice and dice, but the abduct comes in at the end. Light and LvMao trying to take the engage here. Doinb in some trouble, and that's so much damage from Scout, who now has the dominance, and the rest of EDG to follow them up. This is a big moment for EDG to push them out of the vision game that LNG was trying to set up around the Baron pit.
Yeah, they won't find the kill they wanted. They really wanted to get a pick and maybe lean that into the dragon. The Baron, sorry. Oh,
Tarzan, he has to go golden. That Ultra Shock laser is about to do some serious work. It is them getting out, though. Flandre's big Mega Gnar ulti not going to do too much. Oh, Light going in on a Viper. Gets over the wall, though, as the shield bow, blood shield, is popped.
Yeah, I mean, such a back and forth. Both teams jockeying, posturing to try and find one of these picks, but neither able to be successful. LNG get the last laugh in this situation and force them away, get the scuttle, but still not too much of an advantage gained. Do you see in the replay, though, the ult used from Tarzan connecting on a LvMao? I think that's just why it was on cooldown initially. But yeah, so Ocean Soul, I feel like, you know, this is really good if you have a tanky composition, right? If you have bulky champions to benefit from it. LNG don't really have that many tanks. The tankiest person is Doinb, and we've seen how squishy he feels. Yeah. I don't think Ocean Soul is necessarily going to win the game for LNG, but it would lose the game for them if EDG got it.
Absolutely.
So LNG are rocking a hard place right now. They need, from now on, this third dragon fight. They not only want to win it, they also want to win it hard enough to get Baron. That is what I'm hoping for LNG. If you're an LNG fan, this next fight is everything. If you're EDG, they just have to not lose the game of it, and they're probably good.
I will say it's going to be a lot to how Light navigates these fights, because he is going to be a pretty big damage source for them in terms of after the big combo from Allah or the spears aren't landing for Tarzan. They're going to have to rely on Light to be the damage source, and the setup is there to some extent, but the lead is to Light's detriment, right? You're starting to get the Warmogs completed for JJ. We're almost on our third item for Scout, which he's going to turn 2 rods into a hat somehow with the magic that he's done in game number 1. And you also are working, on the bottom lane, 3 item spike for Zeri.
Yeah, I mean, once Zeri has the 3 items, that's when I feel like the game is truly going to feel doomed. And you said, like, Light having the damage. This is that first strike burst Lucian build. This is how you play Lucian in the current meta that we've seen him. He's about bursty damage, chunking someone out, and using that momentum to carry through. Long fights are not good for EDG. LNG want the fight to be won by the time Ale's ult times out, by the time Light has used his first combo, and that's so hard to do when there's so many bulky members. EDG once again have control of the river. LNG trying to posture for position, but Ale's in vision, doesn't have a flank like he did in the last fight, and that could make all the difference in EDG's favor.
And speaking of difference, Tarzan has to be landing the poke to set up these fights, and he's starting to hit those spears as we see the jockeying over the mid lane for those minions to try to get the priority. And this is the kind of poke that LNG needs to be landing down if they want to have a hope of entering these fights, because you see EDG are set up for their front to back, right? They are looking with the tanky members in the front and keeping Viper at bait's breath. We'll see Ala over the wall. He does have flash. They get engaged on the tidal wave and the calling there. Ala flashing over the wall. He's ready to go. Slicing Maelstrom onto everybody. Here comes Scout with his own. It's Beyblade time, baby! And EDG are moving forward. Now Viper untouched again after that initial engage, and he'll get the kill onto Ala. Now back into the Dragon Pit goes EDG, but LNG light. He gets Meiko down. The burst coming through clutch. Viper trying to make the difference here himself, though, as LNG staying around the Dragon Pit. Want to try to force this Dragon Soul point, but you're getting a back here with the potential TP coming back in.
Yeah, TP coming in. Scout full HP with the Rabadons. JJ's healed up because of the Warmogs, and Viper's low, but he's starting to heal up off the Dragon with the shield bow, and that is enough for LNG to be forced away. It was a decent fight from LNG. All it found the ult angle and made it work, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to get them the Dragon. It wasn't enough to get a Baron off the back of it. And it is just adding time to the game to allow EDG to find favor. As we get the replay, Ole actually did. He was trying to go for a long flank here. When the engage happens, he was kind of caught off guard in this situation. But then he moves back over and actually is ready to go over the wall. Has his E already popped. Goes in, instantly gets exhausted though. And I mean, without exhaust, that was a team fight win for LNG. But Summoner comes down for Meiko, and it looks decent for LNG, right? They get some low health bars, but the extended fight, the fact that Scout TP's back in, and look at JJ's health. He was like 30%. The Warmogs just so means clutch. This tanky Sejuani goes back to full.
Yeah, and now you're working on an Ocean Soul, right? EDG got their first Ocean Dragon. It's going to get even worse from here on out. But those are the kinds of moments that LNG are looking for. The big highlight play from Light to wipe members out from EDG. But can it be enough as the game goes on? That is the biggest question here, because we are getting into the late game. We're getting to the moment where EDG had drafted for. And I think for LNG, it's still about trying to find a way in as these big item spikes are coming across, right? You have your 3 item spike now for Light. You're looking for that way in.
You have to find something, and now Scout's looking for an angle.
Doinb with the slicing dice will get out of there just quickly. Easy does it by LNG to get away.
Every minute that goes by, it's getting harder and harder for LNG. EDG are fine. If a play doesn't work, they have to back off. That's no problem. But you can feel the desperation from LNG trying to make this comp work, trying to connect, trying to get picks, but they just aren't good targets now. It's such a struggle to find someone who's squishy enough to go down. It really needs to be a mistake from Viper. But, you know, once he gets that Infinity Edge, we all know how much poke Zeri can do. Those Ultra Shock lasers are going to be an absolute pain. And time is ticking.
It is indeed. The clock goes tick, tick, tick. There's no alligators here. Maybe a crocodilian somewhere in there. So we'll see if LNG can actually pilot this one. It'll be a movement out from Ala to try to get away, but EDG know where they can pressure. They know they can try to pick off fights, find a Glacial Prison with JJ, and really make a easy fight win for EDG as a whole. And LNG just trying to farm up as best they can. Scout's actually looking for the flank here.
I mean, we see how much pressure EDG has right now. Scout so confident with those defensive items to go forwards. And it's EDG the ones fishing for plays, trying to find windows, seeing if someone on LNG makes a mistake. But when it doesn't happen, when the ult for the Sejuani misses, they're fine. Just take it a bit slower. As you said, though, 3 items on Light, a lot of burst available to the Lucian if he can connect to the right targets. And, you know, this is game 1, right? We still have a full series on our hands regardless of the outcome. But definitely not the start LNG wanted when they came in with this draft, when they came with the confidence to make the early plays work after JDG had that 3-0 where JDG dictated the early games throughout.
And I think that's so important to highlight for LNG, the path that they've gotten here, right? It has been a lot about adapting to each opponent in different ways, either focusing different lanes or finding a different strategy to make a way into a series. And against JDG, we didn't get to see that. But again, we've highlighted for LNG, there are certain picks, there are certain things that they're trying to draft that forces the hand of their opponent. And I think with this first draft, right, they're trying to do that. They're trying to set EDG off kilter, but EDG, they're standing stalwart.
Yeah, and I love the choices coming out from EDG. The fact that, you know, they have these defensive items from the Sylas. We do often see like the early defensives. We've seen like Zhonya's Banshees be picked up, but sometimes we get the Everfrost. Scout just ensuring that he's going to be winning those extended fights. He's going to last against the burst. The Warmogs from JJ. I feel like Sejuani as well. As much as I said, like, the advantage is over to Nidalee in the early game. In the later stages, your passive, this was one of the things that actually brought Sejuani in the meta. Your passive is a low cooldown, so you basically have it up for every spear. And with the Warmogs as well, JJ can eat as many spears as he wants, and he's just not going to be phased.
And again, we have Dragon coming up in 40 seconds. EDG on their way to stacking up potentially 4 straight Ocean Dragons, at least trying to deny LNG that soul. So going into this one, Aux, the breakdown is trying to find the picks early, trying to find the poke damage for LNG. They're trying to find it on the Flandre, and they might just do it. Light goes down first, though. He tied to Scout. Scout is so big. He is gigantic. That's a double kill for the EDG mid laner. Might even be a third one. We'll see him chase down Tarzan. You cannot find any hope or reprieve as Scout comes in. It's a 1v3. He's going to pull off the Slicing Maelstrom, and he don't care. The rest of the team is coming. Slicing Maelstrom, Wild Growth, bring it all. You will not beat EDG, and you will not beat Scout in this game 1.
And if it's not clear LNG have been outright outscaled, there is the clear indicator. Scout unstoppable, starts that fight, kills everyone on LNG, and they can do nothing to take him out. This, I don't even fault the play from LNG. You're desperate. You'll take anything you can go for. And I think a pick on a Flandre without Gnar might be the angle, but you see Meiko in the vicinity. You see, more importantly, Scout moving over. And Light, he's like, we have to kill this Gnar. We have to commit. But look at this damage that comes out from Scout. Where does Lucian go?
Yeah, there's not many options. I love the confidence from Light saying we just need to get the kill. Some of that desperation coming through. But the fact that Scout just goes in on Tarzan, doesn't care that all is here. The Slicing Maelstrom comes out, and he's just like, bring it. Like, Doinb is here. Dominus is popped. I got the rest of my team that we're literally just at the Dragon. And the beautiful timing on the Wild Growth from Meiko with the flash to make sure it happens.
Yeah, and now EDG picked up that second Dragon. They picked up the Baron as well. The goal lead is 8,000. LNG are outscaled. I feel like there is very little they can do from this position. And Scout, nearly full build, now has a Banshees as well, and that Blighting Jewel. He's unstoppable.
Get the calling as well here. Some of that AP scaling. We'll see the Baron push coming through big for EDG. As Tarzan can't really do much. If Prison comes out, that'll be tier 2 tower taken out by EDG.
Yeah, and I mean, LNG, the exhaust is down for Meiko. That's one thing. So I'm not going to try and present this as a high percentage play, but your best case scenario is you get a big Kennen ult while exhaust is down and you catch everyone in it. I'm not even sure that's going to be enough at this point, but it's your best case scenario. LNG, they need to make something happen soon or they're going to lose their base.
I will say a little rough point there. JJ took like a max range spear from Tarzan and barely lost like even like an eighth of his health. So it's worse and worse as the tanky members can be bodyguard.
Doing so hot. Let's be real. This Nidalee,
the birthday buff is not working for Tarzan, man. I don't know what to say. Gotta get better birthday presents.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what the plan is, but Light trying to make something happen.
Viper goes right in with the rest of the team. Scout is again going to steal the Slicing Maelstrom. And now Viper is doing Zeri things in the base of LNG. We'll see them push down the wave one more time. The Baron minions still aplenty here. You got multiple waves crashing. And this is just the end for LNG as everyone's going in under the tower. They don't even care. Flandre's getting the Gnar into the Nexus. They say, help me kill your base. As Ala finally gets a flank there with a TP in his own base, but it ain't gonna mean much as the Nexus goes down. EDG claim a victory in game number 1.
An absolute stomp, and this was a game where LNG came in with a very clear game plan, a very clear win condition, and failed on it completely.
Yeah.
EDG matching them in the mid jungle. The Nidalee Renekton, this powerhouse in the early levels, from level 3 onwards, should just be able to find advantages. Got completely shut down by JJ on the Sejuani, by Scout on the Sylas, who popped off so hard, and EDG coming out similar to the series against Top Esports with strong game 1.
I will say just a little bit there. Obviously don't know exactly what Doinb said to Tarzan in the last moment, but I feel like it was, it's just one game. No problem. They'll come back into it. And in all actuality,
you're never playing Nidalee again.
Those were the statements. I know it's your birthday, but no Nidalee. But again, I want to go back to the fact we'll touch more on ADG, but LNG always trying to find a way in, not just through mechanical play, right? They're trying to find a way in mentally through draft, through different picks, through trying to, again, throw off their enemy. And yes, this was a hit to that. And it didn't work out, but I still like the fact that they're willing to try these things in best of fives.
Yeah, I'm not going to fault them for doing an attempt. And we have to bear in mind as well that it was EDG on blue side, right? So, for example, the Vi banned away, but then the first pick Zeri coming in. It's hard playing against a team on blue side. We've seen in the LPL this season overall a 60% win rate on blue side. So maybe if LNG choose blue side themselves in this next game, that could give them a bit more of an edge. But regardless, I mean, the fact that LNG didn't get the early lead was rough. And the fact that EDG then started to get ahead was a disaster. But look at Scout in the mid lane on this Sylas. I was concerned for him. I said Doinb has played this exact matchup less than a month ago and dominated. You have a Nidalee as well into the Sejuani that's going to make things even more painful. And Scout seems so unfazed.
Yeah, I mean, hey, maybe taking some of the more recent world champion buff than Doinb at that extent. But it was just a great game to kick off for Scout, right? To holistically take down the mid lane for Doinb, where we said, obviously, for LNG, the important factors are these solo lanes playing towards Tarzan. And we said how much of a difference mid makes in terms of breaking down those win conditions for both sides. And Scout, we set it up perfectly because he took the game mid lane and everyone else just kind of fell in after that.
That was like the step-by-step process, right? Top lane matchup was fine. You have a Kennen good in team fights and he was doing fine trading. But the game plan was crush mid. Use that mid pressure, lean it down towards the bot lane. Suddenly Viper can't play because he's getting 4-man dived. Lucian starts to take over. Lucian gets a lead. All these things were coming off that mid matchup, snowballing from it. So as we said, Mazel, AD diff is jungle diff, which is mid diff. And EDG won the mid diff in this game.
They did. It's simple as that. And we'll see if LNG can bounce back into game number 2. We're going to take a short little break and we'll be right back with that game.